Now, I'm not that great with card games as some may know, so when there's an electronic version of it out there to automatically regulate the rules, it's somewhat tempting to go after it. However, some of these releases have made me question whether we need any more of these things in the world. Enter Guardians of Graxia by Petroglyph, a fantasy board game involving cards on Steam and a few other places. Now, the first thing I saw when I installed the game was Times New Roman, which made me go, who in the world chose those fonts? Shortly followed by, is this an early access game? Because it sure felt like it. Now, this is a short review, so I reasoned I should only proportionally play it before reviewing. So, beyond the Times New Roman and creating a profile, I leapt into the tutorial to learn a bit about the mechanics, to be instead greeted with a text box made out of Arial, and if you don't know how I react to these Microsoft fonts, you better know I hate using them by default. There's so much text during this part, I'll save you the pain of reading it all and summarize it instead. You have a strong unit that you place on board, that then summons weak units, then you advance on an enemy and go for whatever the game tells you to. Now, it seems pretty simple and all that, but there's a whole bunch of complex mechanics the moment you end up clashing with the enemy. Your units might have abilities to affect damage done, you might have an ability card which doesn't affect, and so would your opponent. It's only when both players pass during that phase that you then get to choose a card to sacrifice to further increase your attack, to do more, or decrease your opponent's attack instead. Through some unknown calculation, boom, you do damage to each other at the end of the turn all at once. So regardless of whether you do a one-hit kill or whether they one-hit kill you, they'll still hit your poor unit and do damage. It was by the time I reached the second tutorial mission that they really kicked up the random number generator, which really doesn't do you the favour of picking out cards that are remotely useful. So I threw some units on board and sent them on a rush towards the enemy, only to get slaughtered. It was at that point I decided dealing with randomised cards along with some really complicated mechanics wasn't my cup of water, so I got out and left it. You don't know what's going to happen at all unless you've done an hour's reading beforehand and have willed yourself to recite the tutorial backwards and forwards simultaneously. Now I'm going to go to the fictional universe, since I can review that unlike the graphics. Thank you, gold graphics card. I'll say it's very generic and samey. We've all seen these things before, and you don't even need to look too hard for that. In the missions I did, you have humans as soldiers and cavalry, elves as archers and mages, orcs are the enemies, along with wolf riders and dragons. I think that's a pretty good selection of material to pick up from, right? Guardians of Graxia feels like an attempt to enter a really niche market, and some of the mechanics seem a little bit nifty in concept. But it seems like they should have dropped them by the first alpha and gone for an entirely different approach altogether, because as it stands right now, it's overtly complicated, and if I had this physically in a board game as it so happens to show on the page, I probably would have no idea of what I was doing, rulebook or not.